boilers. But that one is for another day. Then these questions I said is, has the lifting operation been performed using the lifting machinery? That is the first question you ask yourself. Then if no, then that machine must be tested in accordance with the maker's documented procedure. And this is for proper guidance for the reading and lifting of the equipment. You must also ensure that the equipment is ready for lifting.
Is it a continuation from what?
Yes. And then you must ensure, you must make sure you see the load magnitude in addition to the area you are working, that you have a clear view. You have a clear view and observe some other possible hazards. Write something because I'm not going to. Then, effective operation. If you have asked yourself all these questions, then effective operations will come in. Effective operations. This is the way I write operations. When all these stages are observed, you can now proceed with the lifting operation. And then, when you are now doing this, it must be with the standard procedures. If there are no standard procedures, these are what you will do. Number one, you must ensure the weight is known. I won't go into details on that. Because I was wanting to learn.
Yes, we have it here.
No, let me start with this. You know, from here to here is the boom of the crane. It's the boom. You have different types of booms. You have straight booms. This one should be a folding type. The folding type is the one that comes in stages. It comes out depending on the length where you are to lift. If it is longer than this, I mean, if the cargo or load you are lifting is in this area, you release. You understand me? You release it to extend. There are some other ones that are hydraulic in nature, some are telescopic, but I'm not here to talk about all that. I'm just to teach you a little this thing about crane. From here to here is the boom. From here to here is the angle, the boom angle. The angle you see as a curve angle. If you have I think someone will have that exactly a triangle. If you have a triangle, let me say the triangle, the angle, that is the angle. so that you know all these rudiments. Then when you ensure the weight, or load or cargo or anything, you must obtain permission or permit from any of your supervisors before you do it. You must obtain permission before you do it. Although there are times the operators, the owners, they ask you, oh, let's manage it. You understand me? Let's manage how we do this. You have to be extremely very careful when you are doing it. You understand me? And you should also conduct what we call feasibility. Before you start loading, you must conduct a feasibility. Feasibility is just, I have not come to this area before. And maybe somebody phoned me that you were expected to be here today. You phoned me on maybe Friday. Then on Saturday, I find myself here. I don't have any business here. Just to know how I will assess this place. So when you are lifting a cargo, before you start lifting, you must go around the vicinity to know what is obtainable there, the ground terrain. Because there are times, you know, these cranes also work in line with stability. It is not everywhere that you can move this, especially these tired cranes. Although this one has yes, it has this. Some people call it a parachute or outriggers, but the real technical name is the riggers. This and this. What is the essence of these riggers? Exactly, for stability. Because if it is not there, you pick the load, you can that load can the crane can tip off. And why? Why will it tip off? The reason why it will tip off is this. I don't want to go into details. We have a car here some time ago that people say it never tumbles. Beetle. Why does beetle? Have you ever seen where beetle tumble?
No, sir.
Why?
Because it's low to the ground, it's very low.
Yes, it's low to the ground, but you have not given me the technical distance.
It has balance.
It has balance, yes, but it's not the this.
Sir, because the engine is at the back and it helps in sustaining the stability.
There are some of the peripheral disability. The reason is that the center of the gravity of a beetle are low. Center of gravity, CG, are very low. That is why you cannot see it tumbling.
Because that is why they make this cost cars very low.
Yes, it cannot tumble because the center of gravity is low, so it won't tumble. But that is another thing for another thing. So, if you now, for this particular crane or any other crane, if you use it to pick a cargo, you know the CG is permanent. Once you pick a cargo, the CG follows you with it. You understand me? And it makes it unstable. That is why when you see some of these trailer container this thing, they are not stable because the center of gravity of the trailer has already moved up and it makes it to be unstable. So you must take all these things into consideration. I wouldn't tell you about chairman. Yes. And when you are operating, you must have what we call ample headroom. Headroom. Headroom is this. I will explain to you. There are certain bridges when you pass. Okay, let me not talk about bridge. There are certain areas you want to pass in the Lagos. They don't want vehicle carrying containers to pass. They put a pole across.
Yes.
When the vehicle want to pass, the space between the container and then that pole they put across is what we call the headroom. So you must consider the headroom when you are picking. Because the essence of the headroom, especially at this point, between what you are carrying and this hook here, you know, if you make a mistake and that cargo hits here, you have what we call twisting. And if they twist, it's a very big accident. And the wires part, I think you've heard about wires parting. Wire parting, cutting, we don't say cutting. Wire parting way. It takes off itself from that load. It parts. You take the headroom, that is the space between the cargo you are carrying and then the hook into consideration. Balance of the lift is also necessary, like you have also said when we are talking about busway balance. Yes. And it's associated with center of gravity, like I have already said. In some cranes, you can see something here. This one is not carrying it. There are some cranes you will see, especially the offshore cranes. You will see something like block here. What is the essence of that block? Just very heavy block. We call it, what is the essence?
For stability.
It's not stability per se. What we call them compensators. Compensators. Seconds. We call them compensators. Well, you can use it as balance because you can say balance. It's called compensators. There are times you carry some cargo, it's weighing down the crane. This one here, that thing I tell you that is here compensates. It kind of balances it. Compensators, we call it compensators. You see it as a block at times in some cranes. But some have a kind of self-systems that does that. But most of the Julius Berger cranes, they have them. You see it as a block on their head. We call them compensators. Then I will talk briefly about work plan. You must plan your work. You don't just go and then enter inside the cabin, the crane cabin to work. You must plan your work. Check whether there are corrosive materials within that area or the environment is hazardous before you now commence with your work. When you enter a crane, try as much as possible to locate what we call the load charts. The load charts. The load charts. If you enter into, I think you know the cabin. This is the cabin. This is the cabin here. This is the cabin. Although this is outside the scope of what I'm asked to give you people. When you go inside the crane cabin, you will see something like this on the wall. Something like this. The load chart. It will tell you for so and so distance, this is the load you will carry. For so and so thing, this is what you will do. For so and so thing, this is what you do. This is the load chart. It's always within the distance. Yes. Okay, the joystick. We're taking you off.
No, I just wanted to just show them the cabin.
Cabin. Okay. This is called the joystick. The joystick is just like a lever. A lever. It will show you the directions when you are moving, whether you are moving sideways or you are about to pick the cargo, and then moreover the pedals, just like the car pedals. And you will also, when you enter the cabin to see the load chart, if you are carrying a cargo of 10 tons, it is not this 10 tons right. At times they add 10% of this, especially when the crane is new. 10% of this. That should be about 1 ton. They write 11 tons. This is the standard one, but you are allowed to carry 11 tons. 10% of this the self-working load has been added to this. You understand me? Then you must know about the jib configurations. Then another thing is the signals. I wouldn't know where it is in this. Chairman, is it the signals? Is it in this module?
Yeah,
The signals are the signaling men.
Yes.
Or is it another module?
It's another module.
Another module. So I'm just mentioning.
Yeah, under the ringer section.
So you must know about the
hand signal.
yes, the hand signals. I have them here, except maybe in the next module you are going to learn. I'll just show you. This is the signal. This is it here, and then the signs. Signal, and you must follow what the man tells you. You must follow what he tells you. What he or she tells you. The signs. These are the signs. It is not for today to explain what you see. These are the signs. It is not for today to tell you what it means. Then you must carry routine pre-operational checks. Routine pre-operational checks. The one that is provided for that particular crane, you will see it. And then you must have ensure that you keep the service log. Although it's for the technicians, but you must have your own log just to register what activities you have carried for the day or for the week. The essence of the logbook, when there is an incident, you must incident report. Because if you don't incident report, and maybe somebody wounds, somebody dies, don't be afraid that I'm saying somebody wounds or somebody like that, because in anything we do in this life, there are some elements of risk, even when you are drinking water. So that insurance will cover. Or when the inspectors come, they will see something to write about. You also have test controls and safety devices. The crane is normally started with in accordance with some standard equipment procedures. I don't want to go into more details about that. And also the operating and emergency controls when we want to do what we call emergency shutdown. There are times you are carrying and there's going to be a danger. You do what we call crash stop. Crash stop. Crash stop. There are procedures for that. Crash stop. And moreover, like he has shown this, you must make sure that you strap yourself with the belt. But I'm always you can pick your pen. Your safety belt. There has been a lot of debates about safety belts. We had one experience sometime. There was a terminal I was managing, and somebody was picking containers, and I think the cargo was very heavy, and both the container and the tips, you know, along the key apron. You know the key apron. The key apron is that I mean, when you visit the port, just the jetty, like jetty, key apron, and you are operating a crane near the water, just like this in the sea. Suddenly it's a heavy load, this is just tips. And it's very fast, it always happens very fast. So there has been a lot of arguments about this seat belts, safety belt, we call it, safety belt. And some other things, something can happen if you are not with it, you can hit your head on the yes, any of the listeners. But what I'm saying is there have been a lot of issues arising from that. Somebody was speaking and then the crane tip.
The load is more than the crane. It's like
Both the man and the everything went down inside the water force. Down inside.
And he was able to swim out.
Yes, he was able to man because the man is an German. If it is somebody like me.
See when the belt is there. See when the belt is still.
I think it was fast to remove the belt. It was fast to remove the belt. That is the reason why I told you that there are a lot of emerging issues about that safety belt. About the safety belt. Safety belt is good. It is good. It's a very good concept. But you have to be extremely very careful when you are using it. We are human beings. When you are doing certain things and you know there will be a danger. Even the machine will give you signal. The sound. The sound will give you signal that all is not well in that machinery. So you will know. Especially when you have been tipped off, because I know a lot of our people who work in those days. You know, there are a lot of money in there. When you must have been tipped off, please, let's manage this thing. The customer is waiting. You understand me? Manage this for your this. You understand me? You have to be extremely very careful. You should also be aware of obstruction. Obstruction. Then shutting down the crane. You know there are a lot of what we call motion locks and brakes within this crane system. You must know how they operate. These ones are for real professionals. That's what we call trial lifts. Huh? Until you know how to do testing, like when you go to Suyama, say give me it's different, but it's almost similar. It's almost similar. So testing. You are new in the terminal, and a cargo is there waiting for you to be lifted. You know, in Nigeria here, we are 10 world countries. Majority of the cranes our people are using, I want to just tell you the truth. Most of them are new because I'm not trying to run down the operators down. Because if you want to buy the brand new one, if you check the dollar price equivalent, it's expensive. So the business now will have to go to where he can manage. So what I'm trying to say is, most of these cranes cannot have their self-working load marked. Director, can you show me that crane again? What do you say?
This one, sir.
This one, there are certain things I have to talk. Whether I like it or not, I have to talk. This one has you know, do you have any other crane?
Yes.
Can you? No, this leave this one.
This color.
This one is the problem. You know, most of them, apart from the cabin, the self-working load is normally indicated here.
Yeah. So why?
It's embedded somewhere in. And in some cases, you may not see the self-working load. Where you don't see the self-working load, self-working load.
Is it different from compensator?
No, yes, it's different from. You will see it on that place I'm showing you. You will see it, the right SWL. Then they give you the terms. Self-working load. SWL. It's different from compensator. Compensator is just to initiate that balance between the cargo and the crane.
So, the compensator and the counterweight,
They are the something, counterweight. Yes, you can call them counterweight or counterweight.
But this one is smaller, this one is up at the boom.
Yes.
Compensators are the
And boom, yes. Okay, if I'm talking about self-working, so when you want to do, since I have mentioned the self-working load, self-working load, let me just give you a simple definition of the definition is this: self-working load, SWL. The self-working load, SWL, of a crane is the maximum load then underline with the maximum load under specified conditions. Underline that under specified conditions. Underline that under specified conditions for which the crane should be used for which the crane should be used, and if exceeded, could lead to structural failure. I won't go into details about structural failure. That should be for another day. Or in certain cases, to overturning, which I have already mentioned here, tipping, overturning. If you have any question, you can ask me. I always like my students to ask me questions. So I want to align you with this conduct trial test. I mean trial lift. Trial lift. Trial lift. You are given a cargo like that bag there now. You don't know the tonnage. And you've not seen the self-walking load of the crane indicated. So you do what we call trial lift. What you will do is you don't pounce on the cargo. You don't pounce on the cargo. Put your slings or your loose gear. What are the loose gears? Loose gear. But it has a definition. Loose gear. Anything, whenever you are operating a crane and you lose gear, what loose gear are you putting? This and that. The loose gears are things that are not associated with that, and it's an external body to the crane, which you can fit and then lose when you finish your operation. They are called loose gears. Loose gears. They are not part of that crane. So you put a loose gear because those loose gears are what you will now use to adapt to the cargo or load. Because you cannot carry the per se like you just said, you can't. So what you will do is, can you put that first one, the cabin?
So the loose gears are the same thing with the shackle.
They're all loose gears. Okay, let me show you loose gears here, but it's not part of this place. It's not part of the program.
Yeah, more emphasis will be laid on this one.
And another one.
Another lifting operations.
Some of these things are loose gears. Yes, see the there are loose gears. There are a lot of
Shackles.
There are loose gears. They are not part of the fittings of the crane. Because there's no way I will talk without mentioning all those things. So what you will do when you are doing the trial lift, your joystick. You know this joystick, I don't want to tell you the history about joystick. It's from maritime. But I don't want to tell you about the history. Your joystick, you lift small. That's the reason why I told you that 90% of accidents in this lifting operation is human error. When you lift small, it's not up ground, just small. You listen to the sound of the engine. You know, when you listen to the sound of the engine, you know when the engine is whipping. We who are in engineering, when I was in the ocean going vessels, I was sleeping in my cabin, up. Sleeping. Once anything happens, I will tell you where that problem is. So if you lift, the sound, even if you are not an engineer or mechanic, will tell you that this engine is crying. You will know. Even when you lift, the loose gear you put, the wire slings and the shackles you put make some noise, some abdominal noise. Some will be screeching. You know that things are not well with that lifting operation, so you lift it. But also in most of these modern cranes, they have what we call measuring devices. I will tell you, it will show on the dashboard whether that load you are carrying is safe or not. But there are times those ones fail for one reason or the other. Some of our electricians may disconnect those yes, those devices.
That's wrong signal.
They disconnect. You won't even see it on the dashboard. You won't see it. They disconnect it completely. So that work can go on. I will talk about load transfer. Then you do what we call daily pre-checks. You check the engine before you start. You check the water. You are not a technician. You are not, but you must check all those things. The technician will not come to check the water level for you or engine oil level for you. He will not come to check it for you. You must do it. Then also check the controls, especially with the modern. Also check your wipers. Don't little things. The wipers and the blades and the windscreen. And these checks must be visual checks. Visual checks. I won't talk about all these other things. There are other modules that are here which are better here, but that was for another people. I think what I have is almost exhausted. The other modes I have here is not for you today. Thank you so much.
So generally, any questions
Any question?
for
I want you to I don't like to teach students without firing me with questions. Even at a short range. Well, you can fire me at short range.
Okay, you're talking about checks. Checks on crane and all that. Safety for safety meetings. How do you know when they are connected?
You said?
How do you know when they are joining on the crane?
That is what I have already told you. Please check. You check for leakages. Nobody will do it for you. The mechanic will not do it for you. You check them personally yourself because you are the operator. Like me, the car I am driving. Before I enter it every morning, I must do some checks. I'm not a mechanic, but there are some basic checks you must conduct before you take that vehicle away. You understand me? You must. That is the reason why I said that 99% is a human error. The mechanic will not come in the morning to help you check your oil level and the battery. You will not. You will do it personally. And then moreover, you have the manuals. You have the manuals. Those basic things. You have the manuals.
This is crash stops. I didn't understand what it is.
That crash stop is not for you, it's for the
Professionals.
The professionals.
Professional too. So we get to the professional.
You will be professional.
So we need to.
Because then you will get there, you'll be the gurus.
Yes.
From the green horn to the other side, you will.
you can just give us the basic definition.
Yeah, that's
Crash stop is
in case of emergency.
yes for emergency. For emergency, you have to be very careful, otherwise you damage a lot of things. You have to be extremely careful. So it's not for beginners. It's not for beginners. You know, like when some of the things I told you here for the gurus, like the one we call it when you are lifting the cargo and it's, that cargo is running away from you. That's what we call, that's the way you handle that cargo. We call it follow-up. Follow-up operation. But I'm not here to teach you that one. Follow-up operation. You may not do crash stop there. Because if you do it, it becomes a disaster. The cargo may snap. But just part way. And you don't know who is around within that vicinity, and there was a problem sometime in Apapa during this year when people were lifting fish. Both motorman and the driver, they were in that their net. I think you know the net they normally put under the motor to sleep. We all there asleep, and the cargo snapped and finished up on the night. So you must be extremely very careful when you want to apply crash, even in the vehicle you are driving. That is why people don't do crash stop. That's why if you see any, maybe you see where sand is, you allow that motor to enter that hill of sand. Yes, so rather than crash stop, because it will it's a disaster on this road.
Okay, so it's like a motion thing.
It's a motion thing. Yes. It's a motion thing. Engine that is on, and then suddenly you just stop. And you know, engine, crane, they are madmen. You know they are madmen. They are madmen. Thank you so much. Is there another question?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
Can the jeep attach to the boat? Jeep.
Jeep.
Is attached to the boat.
Uh-huh.
And if you operate electronic because
yes, with different technologies these days.
Hello?
You can.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, there are some of these new cranes that use MRI. You know, you enter, you register your listing. Yes. Any other person come, you won't start. Some voice.
Yes.
You come, you talk.
Those ones will be easy to crash stop using computer.
Yes.
Crash stop.
Yes. So when you become there is a way their operation we call also yo-yo operation, whereby you can manipulate. You manipulate the crane, yes. Yo-yo.
Apart from this newly crane that determines the load you are carrying, is there any way you can, on your own, read the load and know whether this one is not the one?
That's what the essence of testing now. You test. Come on, sir. Yes, trial lift.
Okay. How do we know when we cannot have it?
I've told you that the sound will tell you. The sound will tell you.
What about the balance?
The balance here even will tell you. You are a human being. That's why I said 99% is human error. Even when machine failure, before machine fails, you must know. You must know.
Sir, all these containers that are written 20 tons.
They are the weight. The weight. So if you see a container, if you are to carry a container that is fully loaded, 20 feet.
20 feet.
40 feet.
No, not feet. It's tonnage.
Tonnage.
Not feet.
Are they
So
written body?
they are written
Yeah,
body.
they are written body.
They are written body. So my time is up, gentlemen.
Yeah.